A respected doctor left a homeless girl pregnant, and years later, he would save a young boy's life. When he discovered the boy's true identity, the shock would change his life forever. Dr. Jordan Smith never imagined that one passionate night years ago would bring such life-changing consequences today. As a prominent pediatric surgeon in Boston, he had built a reputation for being morally upright and professionally impeccable. At 45, single and childless, he seemed to have it all: a promising career, wealth, fame, and respect from his peers. Yet he harbored a grave mistake from his youth that would continue to haunt him. It all began during his early days as a general practitioner, doing community service in a small rural town in Nebraska. There, he met Sandra, a sweet and innocent Native American woman whose beauty shone through despite her extreme poverty. As they crossed paths in town, they fell deeply in love, sharing one passionate night that would alter their lives forever. When Sandra discovered her pregnancy, she rushed to tell the handsome white doctor, dreaming of building a family with the man who had captured her heart. However, for Jordan, fighting to succeed in the competitive medical field, her pregnancy was merely an inconvenient obstacle to his ambitious plans. Without much consideration, he handed her a large sum of money and demanded she disappear, never to return. With a heavy heart, Sandra left the community, carried her pregnancy to term, and decided to raise her son alone. She named him Benjamin. Times grew incredibly tough, and she had to temporarily place her son with foster parents while she worked to send them money, as they were very poor. She missed her baby terribly, but saw no other way out of their extreme poverty. Meanwhile, Jordan continued his career as a respected pediatrician in the capital, his dark secret known to no one. When Benjamin turned 6, Sandra had finally stabilized enough to regain custody and rent a tiny apartment in the city's rougher neighborhood to be near him. While working various unofficial jobs, she raised her young son alone, keeping the truth about his father hidden. She devoted herself to raising her young son, giving him all the support and love she could. She had learned that men were cowardly and selfish creatures, unable to appreciate the miracle of bringing life into the world. She would never make the mistake of having illusions about men again. Years of hard labor passed as she sewed, cleaned, and cared for wealthy homes to put bread on her modest table. Before she knew it, Benjamin had grown into a tall, intelligent, and dedicated young man in his final year of elementary school. Even though he came from a humble background, he was determined to become the top student and earn a university degree, driven by his hopes for a better future. One afternoon when Benjamin returned from school, Sandra noticed something terribly wrong with him. He was pale, had dark circles under his eyes, and was shaking uncontrollably. When she touched his forehead, she was shocked by how high his fever was. When asked, the boy complained of severe stomach pain and nausea. She rushed him to the nearest community health center, praying it wasn't anything serious. Sandra's fear grew when she learned Benjamin was suffering from a dangerous kidney infection that required close monitoring and intravenous medications she could never afford. The boy was admitted to the pediatric ward at the main hospital in a severely weakened state. There, the doctors managed to stabilize him and monitor his condition. Sandra sat by her son's bedside, crying inconsolably, wishing she could at least afford the necessary medications. In that anxious moment, she encountered the famous Dr. Smith. By a twist of fate, he was supervising the pediatric ward that morning, unaware of their shared dark history. Reading the medical reports, Jordan was moved by the critical case of this poor boy and ordered the best antibiotics to be administered regardless of cost. The young boy's gentleness reminded him of his days volunteering in marginalized communities. He instructed the staff to monitor him closely, determined to save the boy's life at all costs. He felt the need to make up for all the cases he couldn't resolve in time through this boy. He treated Sandra kindly, assuring her that her son was now in good hands. Thanks to this providential intervention, Benjamin's health improved dramatically over the next few days. He regained his appetite, and the expensive antibiotics brought some color back to his cheeks. He even joked with the young nurses, making them laugh. It seemed like a miracle, as the initial prognosis had been very grim due to limited resources. Sandra was filled with gratitude for the respected Dr. Smith, who had shown them such compassion. If she had known the truth, she might have spat in his face rather than kissing his hand. But fate sometimes has mysterious ways of reconnecting separated paths. And an even greater, more painful trial awaited these two men who unknowingly shared blood. On the day Benjamin was scheduled to be discharged after a long 10-day hospital stay, Sandra was happily reviewing the final paperwork. Suddenly, she heard a commotion in the pediatric ward. Nurses and doctors were running toward her son's bed. One of the staff had found him convulsing and choking on his own vomit, and raised the alarm. Sandra froze in terror as she watched the medical team desperately trying to resuscitate Benjamin. Benjamin was thrashing violently, unresponsive, with his eyes rolled back. They had to sedate him from the neurological seizure. The boy who had been laughing with her just minutes ago now lay intubated and unconscious on a stretcher headed to the ICU. The seizure had caused a 10-minute respiratory arrest, depriving his vital organs of oxygen. His vital signs were extremely weak, showing no promise of a good prognosis. The uncontrolled kidney infection had triggered severe sepsis. All they could do was wait through the critical 72-hour window to see if he would respond to maximum life support. Otherwise, the outcome would be fatal. These were the most agonizing hours of Sandra's life. She helplessly watched her son's fragile body connected to machines, not knowing if those mischievous eyes would ever look at her again. She knelt and begged all the saints for forgiveness for bringing her son into this cruel world where such an unjust fate awaited him. Dr. Smith was visibly shaken by the sudden turn this case had taken. He felt a sharp pain in his chest, knowing he couldn't afford to lose this brave patient after fighting so hard to save him initially. He ordered the specialists to monitor the boy around the clock, hoping for signs of improvement that might give him a chance at recovery. The 72 hours passed slowly, and while the boy survived thanks to life support. However, he remained in a deep coma, unable to breathe on his own. Brain activity was minimal, and he needed a pacemaker due to muscle weakness. The situation was so critical that they didn't dare turn off the machines, despite the risk of a vegetative state. Only a true miracle could bring back the Benjamin they once knew. It was Sunday morning when it happened. As Jordan was making his usual rounds, the boy's heart monitor began blaring an ear-piercing alarm. His vital signs had suddenly crashed. Without a second thought, the doctor began advanced cardiac life support. He refused to lose him after coming so far. After several agonizing minutes of continuous chest compressions, when all seemed lost, a faint heartbeat returned to the tiny heart. Against all odds, his warrior's body was fighting back once again. He ordered 4 times the normal dose of adrenaline and amines to stabilize him. Under his round-the-clock supervision, the boy miraculously escaped this life-threatening crisis. Days later, when he awakened from his coma and weakly called for his mother, Jordan was overwhelmed with a rare happiness he had seldom felt in his life. He felt this was his most important victory. Looking into those helpless eyes gazing at him, he regained his faith in his mission to save lives. In his eyes, Benjamin was just another child for whom he felt an infinite responsibility. Sandra nearly collapsed with emotion when she could finally hold her child in her arms, safe from danger once again. She covered her son's face with eager kisses, grateful for this second chance to be with him. She gazed at Dr. Smith with deep gratitude, knowing that Benjamin's shy smile today was undoubtedly thanks to him. Through her tears, she took the kind doctor's hand, unaware that she was bound to him by an unbreakable bond. Little did she know that the dark secret that had changed their destinies was about to be revealed. The threads needed to rewrite their story, heal past wounds, and reconcile their paths were already being woven. Much sooner than they could imagine. Despite surviving the extreme health crisis, Benjamin's path to full recovery was not free from obstacles. After nearly a month in a coma depending on life support, his young body was severely weakened, and his immune system was almost destroyed. He spent many more days connected to tubes and probes before he could breathe without a ventilator or eat by mouth again. Sandra refused to leave her son's side for even a moment, fearing the sepsis might return due to his vulnerability. Seeing him reach out his small hand to hold hers while sleeping gave her the strength to stay there, providing love and positive energy, even though she herself was on the verge of physical and emotional collapse. Dr. Smith also closely supervised Benjamin's slow recovery, whom everyone affectionately called Champion because of his superhuman will to live. He celebrated each small sign of progress as if Benjamin were his own child, praising his grip on life. Deep in his soul, he felt he had to protect this boy at any cost. A month after leaving the ICU, all health indicators, including kidney function, were gradually improving. However, a worrying clinical question arose. After multiple sepsis, his kidneys had suffered serious damage and were on the verge of acute failure. Benjamin would almost certainly need a kidney transplant to regain his health. Sandra was devastated by the lack of means to perform such a complex surgery. Even the previous hospitalization had come at great sacrifice. She couldn't imagine how to afford something of this magnitude. Jordan himself immediately consoled her, promising to personally handle the case so Benjamin could receive the transplant for free. He would proceed as soon as a donor was found. After experiencing so much anguish to save his life initially, this was the least he could do to give this brave boy a fulfilling future. So Benjamin was registered on the national recipient list to wait for a matching organ. Jordan used all his influence to raise the priority level, considering the severity of his condition. Finally, after just 2 months, the awaited news of salvation arrived. A deceased donor met all the characteristics needed for pediatric kidney transplantation. Everything was prepared as quickly as possible to perform the surgery before the available organ could deteriorate. The team moved swiftly under Jordan's supervision. The team was more focused than ever before, knowing this was their chance to completely transform the life of this unfortunate young boy. After 4 intense hours of surgery, Dr. Smith emerged with a broad smile on his face to tell Sandra the wonderful news of its success. Mother and son burst into tears of joy when they learned Benjamin had been given a true second chance at living a normal, healthy life. The post-transplant recovery progressed smoothly, much to everyone's relief. The new kidney began functioning immediately, allowing them to stop the dialysis treatments. With immunosuppression therapy protecting his new kidney from rejection, Benjamin's chances for survival looked better than ever. Under Dr. Jordan's careful supervision, the doctor could barely contain his joy. Several months later, during one of Benjamin's routine checkups, he was evaluated by a group of visiting specialists the hospital had specially invited. They had come to witness what the medical community was calling a small miracle of modern medicine. Among these distinguished physicians was Dr. Michael Johnson, a renowned pediatric urologist and stem cell researcher from Boston. After reviewing the boy's detailed medical history, he was fascinated by this case of exceptional complete recovery. Excited by the possibilities, Dr. Johnson confided to Dr. Smith his desire to include Benjamin in an innovative research protocol he was leading at his laboratory. This experimental treatment would use stem cell gene therapy to stimulate regeneration of damaged kidney tissue, potentially rebuilding function without transplantation. If successful, it could become a breakthrough treatment for kidney disease that wouldn't require lifelong immunosuppressant medications. Benjamin's medical history made him an ideal candidate for this promising alternative therapy. Dr. Smith listened to his esteemed colleague with a mixture of skepticism and deep interest. Though it was still uncharted territory, he trusted the judgment of this widely respected pioneer and his groundbreaking achievements. He thought it couldn't hurt to discuss it with Sandra and let her decide. This could not only transform Benjamin's life, but also set an important precedent for medical research and progress. That evening, while sharing their usual dinner in the hospital cafeteria, Dr. Smith carefully brought up this controversial topic. He tested the waters without wanting to pressure Sandra too much. To his surprise, the usually cautious woman embraced the proposal enthusiastically from the start. "Doctor, my son literally owes you his life," she said, taking his hand with eyes full of absolute trust. "After everything you've done for him, if you think this could help him get better, you know you have my complete support and gratitude." When the proposal was explained to Benjamin and he understood what the experimental protocol would involve, it didn't take much convincing. The idea of becoming like a superhero who could heal his own kidneys without needing medications or checkups forever was incredibly appealing to a boy his age. Dr. Smith couldn't contain his joy when he confirmed to the American team that they had secured both patients for this innovative project. He knew this could be a giant leap forward in regenerative nephrology, worthy of a Nobel Prize. But personally, he felt infinite joy at being able to give this brave boy whom he had come to love like a son something even beyond good health. This was an opportunity that would change his life forever. Benjamin and Sandra accompanied Dr. Smith to a prestigious clinic in Los Angeles, California. There, a controversial yet promising clinical trial awaited them. During the thorough preliminary screenings to confirm candidate eligibility, everyone received detailed explanations about every aspect of the research. Essentially, this new technology would extract and preserve mesenchymal stem cells from Benjamin's viable kidney tissue through a special process. These precious multipotent stem cells would then be genetically reprogrammed in the laboratory to acquire enhanced regenerative properties. Once these kidney supercells derived from the patient were created, they would be re-injected into the bloodstream, expected to autonomously migrate to the kidneys. After settling in the target organ, they would gradually begin repairing and regenerating the damaged tissue. This would represent a major step of hope for the scientific community. After weeks of evaluation and laboratory preparations, the big day finally arrived. In the modern treatment room, accompanied by Dr. Jordan and the nurses, Sandra's heart was full of pride and nervousness. Her little boy was connected to sophisticated equipment that would mark a historic milestone. Dr. Johnson injected the carefully formulated dose containing millions of enhanced stem cells directly into the boy's bloodstream. The monitors recording his blood flow in real time quickly showed the precious concentrate moving rapidly and positioning itself in the desired kidney region. "Ladies and gentlemen, we did it. For the first time in human history, we are witnessing programmed cell regeneration in real time. Congratulations to all. We have opened a new era in medicine," declared the visionary doctor before his colleagues, who responded with amazed applause. Sandra wept as she held the still drowsy Benjamin in her arms. He couldn't yet fully grasp the magnitude of this moment. They had not only restored her son's complete health, but had also given him a future full of opportunities that she could never have imagined when he was born into poverty. She kissed the face of this brave little boy who had proven time and time again his superhuman will to live. She felt infinite gratitude toward the respected Dr. Smith, who had protected him in the most critical moments and had ensured him first-class medical care from the start. What Sandra didn't yet know was that Jordan and Benjamin's relationship went far beyond that of doctor and patient. They shared an inevitable blood bond as father and son, but due to past circumstances, he had hidden his identity throughout all these years. However, this big family secret, buried for almost 10 years, was about to be revealed in the most unexpected way. It would expose a raw and controversial truth that would shake the renowned doctor's entire foundation and test his oath to do no harm to patients and society. It happened when researchers were meticulously analyzing all genetic variations in the origin of Benjamin's stem cells. The DNA study was crucial for coding the programmed tissue regeneration sequences. They inadvertently opened Pandora's box and discovered something truly worrying and threatening. The latest sophisticated platform could map thousands of genetic characteristics to determine individual cell vulnerabilities and resistances. And random reading of these databases set off all the alarms in the system. Benjamin's paternal genetic profile matched unmistakably with that of Dr. Jordan Smith, who was present in the facility. The stunned researchers communicated this troubling discovery directly to Jordan. Jordan nearly fainted, having to sit down as he felt overwhelmed by the weight of this devastating truth. The innocent, poor boy whose life he had saved more than once was the result of a brief romance he thought he had forever erased from his history. His impulsive and irresponsible actions from the past were about to make him pay the price in the most dramatic and unexpected way. There was no way for him to escape this harsh reality then. Benjamin was his son, and it was his duty to face the situation as his biological father. He had to fully accept his role and the consequences of his actions. He felt a mixture of panic and deep sorrow as he imagined Sandra's reaction to this heartbreaking news and how it would shatter the image she had of him. How could he ever look into those eyes that had gazed at him with such blind faith in his noble character, with devotion and gratitude so many times? He wanted the ground to swallow him whole when he thought about the terrible pain Benjamin would feel, growing up knowing his father had abandoned him for selfish reasons before he was even born. But he had no choice. He could no longer hide his true identity and what really connected them. That night, mustering his courage while feeling nervous, Dr. Smith went directly to the modest apartment assigned to Sandra during the experimental research. He needed to confess this sordid truth immediately, before he lost his nerve. He could no longer continue this charade without facing his past actions. He knocked quietly on the door. He wished no one would answer, wanting to run away. But to his terror, a radiant Sandra quickly opened the door, greeting him with her usual absolute warmth. "Dr. Smith, please come in. I'm so glad you've stopped by at this hour. Benjamin is already asleep after his treatment, but we can talk over coffee. I'd love to hear more about this amazing invention being used to treat my son. They say our boy will go down in history, and it's all thanks to you." Jordan felt like dying with each affectionate word. He felt he didn't even deserve to be there. But there was no turning back. "Sandra, that's actually what I came to talk about tonight. It's about Benjamin and me. Something very serious happened years ago that I should have told you about. But I didn't have the courage. Please forgive me for betraying you like this." Sandra's face changed to an expression of confusion as she stared at him. What was he talking about? Was her son's health at risk from the experiment? Had there been some unexpected side effects? She slowly sat down, not taking her eyes off the doctor as she waited for his shocking confession. Jordan shamefully lowered his eyes, feeling a lump in his throat that prevented him from speaking. After an uncomfortable silence that felt like forever, Jordan finally summoned the courage to confess what had been eating away at him inside. He had known for years that this confession would forever change his relationship with Benjamin and Sandra, but he could no longer continue living with the lie. "Sandra, I am Benjamin's biological father," he suddenly said, feeling the weight of the world lift from his shoulders as he spoke the words. The woman was dumbfounded, thinking she must have misheard. This renowned doctor who had heroically saved her son was the same contemptible man who had abandoned them years ago for fame and money. This had to be some horrible joke. "What? Explain this right now. This makes no sense," she demanded angrily. Jordan began telling the whole truth. He spoke about his brief affair when he started working as a young doctor in an underprivileged area, his cowardice when he learned of the pregnancy, and how he gave her money to disappear so he could pursue his path to professional success. He shamefully recounted how fate had reunited them years later without his knowledge, how he had grown close to Benjamin, and how he had fought to save his life. Finally, he told her about the genetic discovery that had revealed their hidden father-son connection. Sandra couldn't shake off her shock. She stared blankly, tears rolling down her cheeks, as she slowly processed everything. Suddenly, her face transformed into an expression of anger and deep pain. "I can't believe you could do something so despicable. Do you have any idea how much I suffered when you cast me out of your life, pregnant and penniless? While you were living like a king, we spent nights begging just to survive." Jordan tried to justify himself, but Sandra was completely distraught, unleashing years of bitterness. "Be quiet. Don't talk about saving us at the hospital. That was your duty after abandoning us. You brought your own son to the brink of death without even knowing it. Benjamin owes you his life because of your actions, not because you're a hero. You're a coward. You always have been." The harsh words pierced the doctor's heart like a sword. But he knew he deserved every ounce of this contempt and anger. He bowed his head, unable to meet her eyes, and could only cry quietly. Sandra was right. He was a coward who had failed both as a father and as a human being. After venting some of her pent-up anger, Sandra collapsed at the table and began to cry. She felt helpless, deceived, and deeply betrayed by the one person she had believed to be genuine, who had reached out to help her when she needed it most. "Does Benjamin know?" she suddenly asked warily. "No, I haven't told him yet. I wanted you to know first so we could handle this together. But he has a right to know the truth." In the days that followed, a deep sadness and disappointment permeated the once warm atmosphere between them. Sandra barely spoke, looked haggard, and no longer smiled as she used to. She spent her time crying alone or staring blankly at her most precious treasure, her son, wondering how he would react to this heart-wrenching news. Jordan kept his distance but struggled with the situation. He felt he had betrayed them more than he could have ever imagined. He hired a prominent lawyer to seek legal advice in preparation for the worst. He wouldn't blame her if Sandra tried to deny Benjamin the surname he should have by bloodline or demanded substantial financial compensation. He deserved it. Finally, after much pleading, they got the chance to have a difficult conversation alone. For their son's sake, they needed to resolve this complicated issue in the best way possible. "Tell me, doctor. Why now? After all these years? You could have continued without saying anything. What made you confess?" Sandra asked coldly. "Please believe me. I was so ashamed, I planned to take this secret to my grave. But when I learned the truth about being Benjamin's father, I couldn't keep hiding it anymore. I had to face the consequences. I had to look him in the eyes and tell him his father was here with him. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness or a second chance. But at least let me try to heal some wounds by taking care of you both from now on." Sandra considered the proposal for a few minutes before answering firmly. "Look, doctor. We can't change the past. We can't change your cowardly actions. Benjamin is a very intelligent and sensitive child. I don't know how he'll handle learning that his father abandoned him and now suddenly appears as his savior. But if you really want to make things right, I demand that you fulfill your proper role. Benjamin has the right to carry your surname and receive all the benefits a biological father can provide." Jordan couldn't believe his ears. Far from denying him Benjamin, she was giving him a real chance to make up for lost time and acknowledge him. He knew he didn't deserve it after causing so much damage. Yet he was moved by Sandra's strength in prioritizing their child's well-being. Jordan felt unworthy of such a brave and special son. When the time came to reveal this shocking news to a confused Benjamin, Jordan was determined to be completely honest about the situation. He got down on his knees to apologize for abandoning him as a baby out of fear of facing his responsibilities as a father. He also thanked him for making him a better human being. Now life had brought them back together. The boy listened in amazement, unable to fully comprehend. He asked innocent questions, trying to understand the situation, and finally collapsed crying in his mother's arms. He couldn't believe that the respected doctor who had so devotedly cared for him was actually his father. Everything was very confusing in his young mind. "Mom, so Dr. Jordan is my dad? Why did he leave us alone? Did he stop liking us or something?" Benjamin asked, his voice trembling with the pain of abandonment. "My darling, the doctor made a mistake that he deeply regrets, but it's never too late to make things right. From now on, we'll be a family. So don't cry. You're very fortunate to have a father who will do everything to protect you and give you the best. Just give him a chance. He loves you very much." The mother's words were comforting to the small child. Gradually, the situation began to normalize. Although their relationship with Jordan was far from perfect, communication improved and the boy began to grow attached to him. Sandra, too, became less hostile toward the doctor's sincere efforts to make amends for his mistakes. A few months after this difficult family revelation, news of Sandra's new pregnancy came as a shock. It was the result of her growing closeness to Jordan. He had been trying to win her back. Though events unfolded quickly and weren't planned, they both saw this as a sign of a second chance to do the right thing in life. As the family they should have always been. Benjamin was overjoyed to learn he would have a little brother or sister. He would gently hug his mother's growing belly and sing songs he had made up himself. He also worked even harder in his stem cell therapy sessions, wanting to ensure the future baby would be healthy. Jordan fully embraced his role, eagerly attending every ultrasound and prenatal checkup. He would kiss the swollen belly repeatedly, apologizing to the new child for his past mistakes. When he felt the baby move beneath Sandra's skin, he shed tears of joy at this most wonderful sign of life. When little Andrew was born, their lives changed forever. They had now become a real family, supporting each other unconditionally. Jordan moved in with them, sharing special moments and watching with pride as his children grew. He legalized his relationship with Sandra through marriage, completely erasing the dark shadows of the past. Benjamin continued to grow, becoming an exceptionally talented and intelligent child. The innovative experimental treatment successfully regenerated his damaged kidneys without major complications. To the medical team's delight, all indicators showed healthy, functioning organs. Thanks to this recovery, Benjamin was invited as a star patient to an international medical conference on his school graduation day. There, his impressive regenerative therapy results were presented as a major breakthrough in eliminating the need for transplants. The proud Dr. Smith delivered an emotional speech before his fellow scientists. He spoke about how this brave boy had taught him the true value of life and the importance of fighting tirelessly to protect it. He apologized again for his past mistakes before the world and thanked the boy for redeeming him and making him a better person. Though it took years to overcome this family's shocking truth and heal deep wounds, Benjamin and his parents' future finally became filled with hope. At 15, the boy became a great source of pride for both the regenerative medicine that restored his health and the parents who devotedly loved him. Thanks to his excellent academic performance, which was enhanced by advanced experimental treatments, he was awarded a prestigious scholarship to conduct a research internship at Dr. Johnson's laboratory at a renowned university. The creator of the innovative cell therapy that had treated him would personally guide his scientific education, offering an unprecedented opportunity to prepare him to become a renowned medical expert who would one day follow in his footsteps. For a young man who came from such humble beginnings, yet showed such promise, it was truly a dream come true. His proud parents were filled with happiness and gratitude as they watched their son achieve what they had once been afraid to even dream of for him. They knew their son's future was secure. Surrounded by brilliant minds and endless resources, he would be able to develop his talents. Jordan himself shed tears of joy when the charismatic Dr. Johnson personally confirmed Benjamin's acceptance into the research team. Before their long-awaited family vacation, this was the greatest gift they could receive after so many hardships. They could now watch their son finally succeed, gaining the wings he needed to soar across borders as was his right. Before this important journey, the Smith family planned a grand European tour to create lasting family memories and strengthen their bonds before the upcoming separation. This would be their first time leaving the continent, an opportunity to discover new horizons. Europe and its charms awaited them with open arms. Their first destination was enchanting Paris, known to many as the City of Love, with its unparalleled architectural beauty. The Smith family treasured every moment together, making memories on boat rides along the Seine, taking smiling selfies in front of the majestic Eiffel Tower, and sharing hugs and kisses on the romantic Loch Bridge. They never stopped dreaming of a future where their children would achieve their highest personal aspirations, and Benjamin would someday give them grandchildren to spoil. The magical postcards of historic Rome were essential too, with its delicious Italian cuisine and mandatory visits to the magnificent Colosseum, Trevi Fountain, and Sistine Chapel at the Vatican. They savored every corner of this earthly paradise filled with art and culture. Even little Andrew showed great interest in the classical architecture, imperial legends, and gladiator battles that his brother described in detail. In his heart, he too dreamed of conquering symbolic stages in the not-too-distant future. Who knows, perhaps he would follow Benjamin's path into science and academia. Another highlight was picturesque Venice with its iconic canals. In this city of waterways, they rode traditional gondolas through the romantic, movie-like canals. They enjoyed plenty of pasta and homemade tiramisu, savoring life together like never before. They had truly become one united family. You've reached the end of another touching story. We'd appreciate if you could like and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing heartwarming stories every day. And please don't forget to watch the video that will appear on your screen shortly. We'll see you there.